In many ways, Angelo Mozilo, he's like one of those cartoon characters, the evil genius cartoon character who wants to dominate the world.
When it comes to promoting the American dream, no one was more effective than Angelo Mozilo. As the founder of Countrywide Financial, he found ways to provide mortgages to people who previously believed home ownership was out of reach.
Every one of them was turned down for a home loan by 3 different lenders. I'm with Countrywide, and I got them all approved. All approved. All approved.
Mozilo enabled low and middle income individuals to obtain mortgages through the use of subprime loans, which featured low initial payments.
Homeowners, remember why you got an adjustable rate mortgage in the first place? To keep your payments low. But now that your adjustable payments have shot up, what can you do?
However, when the interest rates adjusted, many borrowers were unable to keep up with the increased payments, turning their American dream of home ownership into a nightmare. This is the story of how Angelo Mozilo and his company Countrywide significantly contributed to the 2008 global economic meltdown. Angelo's early life. Angelo was born in 1938 in New York City to lower middle class, first-generation Italian parents. He had a humble upbringing. He slept on the couch in the living room and began working at his father's butcher shop at the age of 12. However, even at a young age, Mozilo had a passion for the mortgage industry, and he secured his first job in the field as a messenger for a lender in Manhattan at the age of 14. While attending college, Mozilo continued to work for the mortgage lender as a part-time employee. Upon graduation, with a degree in marketing and philosophy, he chose to pursue a full-time position with the lender. His hard work and dedication paid off when the mortgage lender merged with a competitor named Lomas Realty Securities. The founder of Lomas, David Loeb, was impressed by Mozilo's knowledge of the industry and decided to take him under his wing as his protege. The beginning of Countrywide. In 1969, Lomas Realty Securities was acquired by a major player in the mortgage industry. Following this acquisition, Angelo Mozilo and David Loeb decided to establish their own mortgage company, which they named Countrywide. The two-man team relocated their headquarters to sunny Los Angeles, California. For the first 5 years of its operation, Countrywide Financial was run as a traditional mortgage lender, with salespeople actively seeking out customers and selling mortgages. However, in 1974, Mozilo and Loeb came up with a novel idea. They would run advertisements to generate business. This new approach to the mortgage industry allowed Countrywide to expand rapidly and become a truly national lender. By 1980, the company had 40 offices in 9 different states. In 1985, Mozilo and Loeb took Countrywide public on the New York Stock Exchange. The company began diversifying into other segments of the mortgage loan process, such as wholesale loan origination. In the 1990s, Countrywide was flourishing more than ever, thanks in part to a decline in interest rates. By 1992, Countrywide had briefly become the largest originator of single-family mortgages in the United States. David Loeb, the co-founder and chairman of Countrywide, initially avoided subprime mortgages due to his conservative approach, but by 1996, the business potential of these loans became too significant for Countrywide to ignore. The company began issuing subprime loans, and within 4 years, subprime loans made up 6% of the company's mortgage business. Mozilo takes over. In 2000, David Loeb, who was experiencing health issues related to neuropathy and had reached the age of 76, sold all of his shares in Countrywide and resigned without informing the board, as conflicts arose with Angelo Mozilo, who was eager to take on a more prominent role within the company. This led to Mozilo assuming the position of chairman of the board of directors and attaining complete control of the company. As of 2003, Countrywide held a 12% share of the mortgage industry, And during a Lehman Brothers conference, Angelo Mozilo announced an ambitious goal of increasing the company's market share to 40% within 5 years. Following Mozilo's public announcement of this ambitious goal, a sense of urgency to achieve it overtook the company. David Samble, the head of production at Countrywide, served as Mozilo's lieutenant in the company's expansion efforts to attain 40% market share. Similar to Mozilo, Samble was known for his aggressive and relentless approach in achieving this objective. In an effort to achieve its ambitious growth goals and remain competitive, Countrywide increased their advertising budget and adopted a strategy of issuing adjustable rate mortgages to increasingly high-risk buyers.
Homeowners, remember why you got an adjustable rate mortgage in the first place? To keep your payments low. But now that your adjustable payments have shot up, what can you do? Call Countrywide.
Call Countrywide Home Loans now.
Call Countrywide. We're America's #1 home loan lender. No one can do what Countrywide can.
No one can do what Countrywide can.
No one can do what Countrywide can.
Adjustable rate mortgages entailed low initial payments that would later adjust to significantly higher amounts. Furthermore, these loans did not require verification of income, enabling borrowers to simply state their income without any verification by Countrywide. Additionally, these loans did not require any down payment. This easy access to credit fueled a continuation of rising housing prices. As property values continued to rise, many borrowers would refinance their homes in order to obtain cash, which they then used to make mortgage payments. Why did Countrywide not care about the ability of borrowers to repay their loans? Countrywide prioritized issuing mortgages over assessing the risk of borrowers defaulting on these loans. This was due to the fact that Countrywide did not hold onto these loans for an extended period, but rather sold them to banks on Wall Street. These banks would then bundle the loans together and issue mortgage-backed securities and collateralized debt obligation securities. These securities, which were mainly composed of subprime mortgages, were then sold to a diverse range of investors, including institutional investors such as pension funds, insurance companies, hedge funds, as well as individual investors. Why did individuals and institutions decide to invest in mortgages extended to high-risk borrowers? Mortgage-backed securities and collateralized debt obligations were composed of thousands of loans bundled together, making it difficult for investors to assess the risk of each individual loan. As a result, investors relied on rating agencies to evaluate the risk of these securities. However, despite their high risk, many subprime mortgage securities were rated as AAA, the safest rating by rating agencies. So why were mortgage-backed securities containing subprime loans given AAA ratings by the rating agencies? The primary cause of the failure of rating agencies to accurately assess securities was the inherent conflict of interest. Investment banks, which were responsible for creating these securities, also paid the rating agencies to rate them. Furthermore, these banks would often threaten to take their business to a rival agency if they did not receive the desired rating. Another reason the rating agencies considered these securities safe was that historically, real estate collapses in the United States have occurred in specific regions, not nationwide. However, by combining mortgages from different regions into one security, the rating agencies believed that this would make the securities less risky. Returning to the story of Countrywide. In 2004, Countrywide's chief investment officer, Nick Kersnick, warned CEO Angelo Mozilo of the potential collapse of the mortgage industry due to the declining lending standards that were being implemented. However, Mozilo disregarded these warnings and stated, "I don't believe there's any bubble out there," in June of that year. Subprime loans were highly profitable for Countrywide, as they were in high demand among Wall Street investors seeking higher returns on riskier investments. To further incentivize their salespeople to originate these loans, Countrywide offered larger commission rates. This led to some salespeople at the company earning millions of dollars annually from subprime loan origination. However, the compensation received by the salespeople was insignificant compared to the substantial amount earned by Mozilo. In 2005 alone, Mozilo received $140 million in compensation, positioning him among the highest paid executives in corporate America. Wall Street had become addicted to home loans, and Countrywide was their largest supplier. This, along with his bright orange permanent tan, earned Mozilo the nickname Golden Boy on Wall Street. Countrywide had once again become the country's largest issuer of mortgages. Mozilo was on top of the world, but it would not last long. The decline of Countrywide.
This was a very bad day. The National Association of Realtors reported the worst month-to-month drop in existing home sales since they started keeping track in the late 90s. And compared to last year, closings are down more than 25%.
By early 2007, the mortgage industry began to experience challenges as defaults on subprime loans increased and housing prices began to fall. Despite these signs of trouble, Countrywide CEO Mozilo publicly reassured investors and the public that everything was under control. However, in private emails, Mozilo expressed concern about the subprime mortgages his company had originated. By August of 2007, Wall Street had largely abandoned mortgage-backed securities, and the collapse of the mortgage market predicted by Countrywide's chief investment officer, Nick Kersnick, finally occurred. As defaults continued to rise, Countrywide's creditors, such as JP Morgan, began cutting off the short-term debt that the company relied on to finance its loans. In an effort to save the company, Bank of America acquired a $2 billion stake in Countrywide in August of 2007. Despite these efforts, by December of 2007, as housing prices continued to fall and mortgage defaults continued to rise, Countrywide's board began contemplating the sale of the company. In January 2008, Bank of America acquired the remaining shares of Countrywide for $4 billion, valuing the company at just 16% of its peak valuation of $26 billion earlier that year. Mozilo left the company later that year. The acquisition of Countrywide by Bank of America is widely considered to be one of the worst bank acquisitions in history. As a result of the acquisition, Bank of America has had to spend over $50 billion to resolve legal issues and investigations stemming from the purchase of Countrywide. The collapse of the global economy.
CBS News Special Report, a presidential address to the nation.
Good evening. This is an extraordinary period for America's economy. Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed. We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis.
As the housing market began to collapse, financial institutions faced immense pressure due to the high number of defaults on subprime mortgages.
Financial assets related to home mortgages have lost value during the housing decline, and the banks holding these assets have restricted credit. As a result, our entire economy is in danger.
This led to a decrease in consumer spending, as individuals became increasingly concerned about the state of the economy.
Over the past few weeks, many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future.
The securities that were filled with Countrywide mortgages became worthless as the market crashed.
And investors holding mortgage-backed securities began to incur serious losses.
The stock market declined 57% from its peak.
Traders here working the phone say a lot of their customers are freaked out, waiting to see how low the Dow will go.
And the national average home price in America decreased by 31%. By September of 2009, 14% of all mortgages were either delinquent or in foreclosure. The unemployment rate in America reached a peak of 10% in October of 2009, as the economy struggled to recover from the crisis. The Friends of Angelo scandal. In 2008, reports emerged that certain prominent politicians and legislators, including the head of the Senate Banking Committee, the head of the Senate Budget Committee, and the former CEO of Fannie Mae, had received favorable mortgage terms from Countrywide, referred to as Friends of Angelo. This was perceived by many as a form of bribery and corruption, but ultimately no charges were ever filed. Mozilo gets charged with insider trading. On June 4th, 2009, the SEC filed charges against Mozilo for failing to disclose to investors the significant credit risk the company was taking on its effort to maintain market share. The SEC also charged Mozilo with insider trading. The SEC alleged that Mozilo made changes to his stock trading plans to increase the number of shares he could sell, despite knowing about the risks in the subprime industry not disclosed in Countrywide's financial reports. Mozilo settled with the SEC for a $67 million financial penalty, which was the largest ever paid by a public company senior executive in any SEC settlement. Where is Angelo today? So what is Angelo's perspective on his involvement in the 2008 financial crisis today?
Angelo, there's plenty of blame to go around. Who do you hold responsible?
Everybody, and then nobody. I mean, it was it built up over time. As I reflect on it, I said, what happened here? Because everything was terrific. But if you reflect on it, real estate values became very, very inflated. Asset values throughout the financial industry became very inflated. And a bubble was created. And I didn't take much to penetrate that bubble. Foreclosures began taking place because real estate values have collapsed. In retrospect, if real estate values had not collapsed, which had never done in the history of this country, across the country, it was always regional, local, if real estate values had not collapsed, much of this would have never happened. But once it did collapse, and it was so inflated and highly leveraged, banks were highly leveraged, countries were highly leveraged, government agencies were highly leveraged, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and it all crashed down. It's a perfect storm. And somehow, for some unknown reason, I got blamed for it.
In the interview, he mentioned that his life is now more relaxed and he spends time with his grandchildren and reading books. However, he also mentioned that he is still involved in the mortgage industry in some capacity. Despite the ultimate failure of Countrywide, it is estimated that Mozilo currently has a net worth of $600 million. He resides in this $6 million residence in Santa Barbara, California. Now, some interesting stats about Countrywide and the subprime loan crisis. From 2001 to 2007, Mozilo earned $630 million in compensation as the CEO of Countrywide. Between 2001 and 2007, Countrywide issued $176 billion worth of subprime loans. At the height of subprime lending in 2006, 24% of all newly originated mortgages were classified as subprime. Stay informed and subscribe to our channel for more informative videos on infamous companies and businessmen. Be sure to check out our latest video on the mysterious individual who profited $7 billion from the Madoff Ponzi scheme.
No one made more money. No one got richer from the Madoff Ponzi scheme than Jeffrey Pickauer did, not even Madoff.
I had a very special relationship with the Big Four clients, all right? Pickauer was a little bit different.